All right, let's talk about the one phrase that can stop a deal dead in its tracks. You're too expensive. Especially if you're selling beauty tech, you know this one is the ultimate objection. But what if I told you that by the end of this, you'll see how to turn that deal breaker into your absolute signature closing move? You know the scene. You've just given a fantastic presentation to a spa director or a clinic manager. They're nodding, they're engaged, everything is going perfectly, and then boom, they drop this line. For a lot of salespeople, that's when the heart starts to pound. But here's the thing, that's not a no. It's actually an invitation to start the real conversation. We call this the killer objection for a reason. This is the exact moment where most salespeople stumble. They get defensive, they start listing off specs, or even worse, they immediately offer a discount and just gut their own margin. But the secret isn't about the price at all. It's about understanding what that person is really trying to tell you. Look, this objection is almost never a cold, hard, logical comparison of numbers on a spreadsheet. So for just a second, forget the numbers, put them aside. Because behind that phrase, there's always a powerful emotion at play. Too expensive is really just code for something much deeper, a worry that your prospect might not even be able to put into words. And that emotion, it's fear. When a potential client says, "You're too expensive," what they're often really saying is, "I'm scared." So your job isn't to justify your price tag. Your job is to uncover that fear and, help them through it. Let's really get inside their head for a minute. What they're thinking is, can I really afford to make a mistake on a piece of equipment this important? They're worried about the return on investment. What if this shiny new machine just ends up collecting dust? And this is a big one. They're worried about their reputation. What will their clients think if the results aren't as good as they promised? So remember this, you're not fighting a number, you're calming a. Let me tell you about Marie, who runs this really high-end institute in Paris. She brought up the price objection, and the salesperson, instead of defending the cost, just asked a simple question. What about this price difference feels like a problem to you? And just like that, the truth came out. Her fear had nothing to do with the initial price. It was all about profitability. She was terrified she wouldn't be able to make that investment back. So once you figure out what they're actually afraid of, that's when you can start to transform the number itself. You see, a raw price on its own can feel really intimidating, but when you put it into the right context, the whole picture changes. Let's say your prospect is just stuck on this number. We'll use 3,000 euros as an example. That's the price difference between your machine and a competitor's. In a vacuum, yeah, that looks big. It feels like a huge hurdle, and it's so easy for them to just get fixated on that single figure. But now let's break it down for them. You can say, you're right, there's a 3,000 euro difference, but let's look at what that really gets you. If this better machine brings in just 3 new clients a month, and that's a super conservative guess, that price difference is completely paid off in only 6 weeks. All of a sudden, it's not a cost. It's a clear, fast path to making more money. This is exactly how you make a higher price your single best sales argument. Take a detattooing laser, for example. Maybe yours costs 20% more upfront, but if it means a client needs 30% fewer sessions, well, that client is now saving hundreds of euros. Now your higher cost is actually a powerful tool your prospect can use to win over their customers. So what happens when they go for the cheaper option? I had an institute director tell me this exact story. He bought a laser that was 30% cheaper, and he thought he was making this brilliant financial move. Well, he could not have been more wrong. That initial saving felt great, sure, but then peak season hit. The cheap laser broke down, and it was out of commission for 2 whole months. Can you imagine? 2 months? By the end of that year, he'd lost 18,000 euros in revenue and client compensation. The cost of non-quality will always be more than the initial savings. And this really brings us to the heart of the matter. You're not just selling a piece of hardware. You're selling trust. You're selling security, reliable service, and your expertise. And that's what truly matters in the end. This right here, this is the magic question. You have to ask your prospect this directly. Let's just imagine for a second that price is completely off the table. Which machine would you choose for your business? It's so simple, but what it does is it removes that mental block of the price tag, and it forces them to tell you what they actually value. And you know what happens? I'm telling you, 8 times out of 10, that price objection just dissolves. They start talking about what's really important to them, the security of having certified equipment, how easy it is for their staff to use, the long-term reliability they need to run their business, and of course, the premium brand image they want to show their clients.
Okay, let's make this really concrete. Imagine one of their machines breaks down on a jam-packed Saturday afternoon. With the competitor, they're calling some anonymous hotline, just praying someone calls them back on Monday. With you, they have a dedicated project manager's number, and a replacement device is already on its way within 24 hours. So the choice isn't about saving 10%, it's about saving an entire weekend of business.
Or take a look at Sophie's story from Bordeaux. Her supplier didn't just drop off a box with a user manual and say, good luck. No, they provided 2 full days of hands-on training. They did 3 technical visits in the first month, and they even created custom protocols just for her clients. And the result? A 40% increase in her revenue in just 6 months. That's not a cost. That is a partnership that drives serious growth. Okay, so let's wrap all of this up into a simple, powerful framework that you can literally use in your very next sales meeting. It's a clear 4-step method. Step 1, you gotta dig deeper. Don't defend, just listen. Ask those clarifying questions to find the real fear. Step 2, recontextualize. Take that scary number and turn it into a tangible, easy-to-understand return on investment. Step 3, refocus. Move the conversation away from price and onto what really drives their business: security, results, and service. And finally, step 4, validate. Use a great success story like Sophie's to make the value completely undeniable. You have to remember this. When you hear you're too expensive, that is your moment. It's your chance to prove that you're not just selling a machine, you're a true partner in their growth. They aren't just buying a device, they're buying a promise of a more profitable, more credible, and way more successful business. So I'll just leave you with this final thought. The next time you walk into that meeting and you hear that all too familiar phrase, you're too expensive, just take a breath and smile, because now you know what they're really asking for. They're asking for proof that you're worth it.